The Google as we know it is dying. Look at how many companies are being built right now with very few people, and they're worth hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars. Entrepreneurs, many of them, seize these opportunities. I never really felt going against technology is the right way to live life.
What do you think is the most exciting thing that has happened as a result of this kind of AI gold rush?
I look at what's happening right now is with Google, ChatGPT, Perplexity. There's a new wave where
Okay, so today's guest is Neil Patel. And look, I'm going to cut straight to the chase. Prior to recording, Neil told me that we are in the AI gold rush. And so my intention with this episode is simple. Over the next 40 minutes, we're going to share with you 3 business ideas that you can use to build your first successful AI company. That includes the exact tools and the steps that you need to get started. And let me say this. Neil was the perfect guest to do this episode. And so for context, Neil is a serial entrepreneur. I call him the marketing guy because he runs a $100 million marketing agency, and he built his wealth by taking advantage of new technology at the right time, mainly Google and SEO, and now he's shifting his attention to AI. And so in this episode, he shares the unique AI ideas and opportunities that he's seeing right now. As Neil says, some of these ideas are 7- and 8-figure business opportunities. And so before we get into it, a warning. This episode is for the doers. And so if you're in a moment where you're determined to build your first successful company and you need an idea, a place to get started, then this conversation is for you. That's the warning. Let's get into the episode. You're listening to The Callum Johnson Show. About a year ago, I noticed a shift in your content and the videos you were putting out. You started talking more about AI and the impact of AI. And one of the first videos that you did on your channel on AI, you said this. I wanted to give it back to you. You said the AI gold rush is here. The death of Google and smartphones has arrived. Vertical AI agents are about to start replacing entire teams. The world as we know it is about to change forever. And so there's so many ways that I could take that and we could go. But I wanted to start right in the beginning. The world as we know it is about to change forever. What did you mean when you said that?
look at how many companies are being built right now with very few people, and they're worth hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars, right? You're seeing companies like Midjourney do extremely well and not having too many employees and not even needing a ton of venture capital. If you look at the workforce right now, you see a pyramid, CEO at the top, some management underneath, more management, and eventually you have a big bottom with tons of employees. We look at the workforce as changing into a diamond shape, right? You have the CEO at the top and more management, and you have a much smaller base. You don't need as big of a base because AI can do a lot of the stuff that humans can do, at least on the lower level, for boring, mundane, simple tasks that are pretty black and white and don't need as much high-level thinking.
Yeah. No, it's so interesting. And you know what? One of the things I wanted to ask you about it, you said the death of Google and smartphones has arrived. And it's interesting because I've actually seen it, one of the ways that you cut your chops, and really the thing that you really understood was Google and SEO. And now you're saying the death of Google and smartphones has arrived. Share more there. Elaborate on that.
So to clarify, 5 years ago, you could just pop a website, blog a lot, and eventually rank well on Google and get a ton of traffic. The Google as we know it is dying. But at the same time, Google is innovating and creating a new version of Google, and eventually that'll still be extremely popular and that'll dominate. If you look at Google now, you type in a search, a lot of times you say AI overviews. According to Sundar, the CEO, AI overviews have caused a 10% increase in usage when they show these AI type results. More people are searching more because they're getting the answers they're looking for. You also have AI mode, which is their version of ChatGPT. AI mode is now being integrated into Chrome browsers, and you can ask questions and learn no matter where you are on the web. The point I'm getting at is traditional search that we're seeing, like the old Google, is dead. It's all moving into a world. Instead of you performing a search and clicking on 10 blue links to figure out and do your own research and waste an hour, Google is doing multiple searches simultaneously. When you hit that search button, they're scouring the web more than those 10 pages, trying to figure out all the angles, objections, issues you end up facing with your question that you asked, and find a solution that they know you are looking for, and just show it to you. And then going back to the mobile phone, why is it that we need devices like this to perform a search? It'll end up being glasses. It'll end up being integrated throughout our daily lives, other hardware, our cars, more voice devices. You'll be able to get what you want without having to use your smartphone. Do you have kids? I'm assuming no.
No, I don't.
Yeah, you're young. Okay, so if you search mainly by typing, if you look at the new generation, the young kids, people who are 4, 5, 6, I'm not talking about just Gen Z, I'm talking about like the little kids, right? They think it's crazy that we type to search. They just ask Siri, Alexa, any of these devices. I don't want to say it too loud because I don't want Alexa to turn on. And that's how they get what they're looking for. My son said yesterday, did you know, I believe it was Saturn. Saturn has 145 moons. I was like, cool, I didn't know that. I'm like, you sure? That seems like a lot. So I asked Siri, okay? And Siri says Saturn has 200 and something moons. And then I asked Siri, does any planets have 145? And it says, yes, Saturn has 145 moons. My son says, Siri uses bad sources. Ask Alexa. Alexa gives you more accurate sources, right? They're not only using voice, but they're learning when they're not getting the responses they're looking for, that it may end up being the wrong source that it's pulling from. Now, my son didn't just come into the car yesterday and tell me this. He learned it by watching a video at school. So he's arguing with what Siri is saying, and Siri gives both answers.
Yeah. To your point, the way that we're going to use technology is completely shifting. And so it's interesting because even in that quote that I read out, it captures where I think that we are as a society right now, where you kind of have two camps, right? You have people that to them, it feels like it's their moment with AI. Like there's this incredible opportunity that exists to build wealth and businesses and the life that they wanted. You then have the other camp, and to your point, you even spoke about this. You alluded to this in the quote when you said, vertical AI agents are about to start replacing entire teams. And I think for a lot of people, their reaction to that is one of fear. It's like a doomsday scenario of being unemployed. But the first thing that you said the AI gold rush is here. And when I hear that, I hear about opportunity, about things that people can build. And so I'm curious to hear, why was that where you started? The AI gold rush is here, that there's actually an opportunity for people to capitalize on.
Because I'm an entrepreneur first, similar to you. So as entrepreneurs, what do we think? We look for opportunities. Entrepreneurs, many of them, seize these opportunities. A lot of people working in the 9-to-5 world are afraid of this stuff and they don't want to adapt, and they're happy with the world as it is. So who's right or wrong? There's no right or wrong way of thinking about it. For some people, they really don't like adapting and they're going to be upset. For people who are opportunistic, like entrepreneurs, I look at this correct way. I never really felt, and this is just my opinion, going against technology and going against change is the right way to live life. But I've seen and met a lot of people who don't like change, including people who are billionaires on the Forbes list. No joke. I've met people who are billionaires on the Forbes list like, this is a fad. I don't need this. The world's worked perfectly fine without this for tons of years, and they don't care.
Mm. You said right in the beginning when we started talking, you said it's about the way to succeed in this age and this era of AI is humans plus AI. And so
HAI.
HAI. And so we're gonna get into the actual opportunities that you're seeing that people could capitalize on building with humans and AI. But talk to me about that mindset and that approach that people need to have in order to succeed in this age of AI that we're going into. I want to get to like the mindset, the psychology, like the people that are going to win in this era. What is it that they're doing differently than everyone else?
They're just adapting. I know that's not the answer you're looking for and what people aren't looking for, at least the listeners. You just got to embrace and use and adapt. It's just like, how do you win in the world of mobile, right? You use the devices and you experiment and you learn and you play and you adapt with trends and what consumers want. It really is that simple. You just got to first start by using.
Yeah. You know, you speak about adaptation, and you also spoke earlier about being an entrepreneur, like being almost like a born entrepreneur. Like that's like your instinct, is you have this entrepreneurial instinct. And one of the things I got excited about, even in the preparation for this conversation, was the focus and the clarity that you've had throughout your journey, the focus on marketing, and then like also just you made a decision pretty early on that marketing was going to be your thing. And then even more specifically, Google and SEO, which at the time that you were building, like no one knew about it in the way that they do now, but you made this bet to kind of go all in and be the expert for it. I want to rewind for a second to that point in your journey. What gave you the conviction and the confidence to be like, that's what I'm going to go all in on? And how did that lead to the companies and the things that you built?
Yeah, so I saw it as an opportunity. When I looked at trends, people were using these platforms to actually go and make changes. Whether it was, going to Google, typing something in, learning about something, and then making a change on their business, or whether it's going to Google, looking for a solution to the problem, making a purchase. I saw a huge trend. I was like, wait, why aren't companies trying to go after this traffic? It's just going to be more and more popular because it helps you throughout your daily life. So I rode that wave. And I look at what's happening right now is with Google, ChatGPT, Perplexity, there's a new wave where it's very similar, but the difference is instead of focusing on getting traffic, you're focusing on getting impressions and brand recognition, and you're focusing on getting the right people to your website once they're done doing research on platform. So when they do go to your website, they're much more likely to convert. You don't get as much traffic, but the conversion rates are, much higher than they used to be. Sometimes we're seeing 9x higher.
Okay. You know what? We're going to get deeper into it. I wanted to read out, there was another video of yours that I watched. And this is what you said specifically about the opportunities that exist right now with AI. You said, you don't need millions of dollars to win in business with AI. There are dozens of profitable AI opportunities that are simple, realistic, and high in demand, but most people are overlooking them. And so before we get into the opportunities themselves and what you're seeing, it's interesting to me that you said there are dozens of profitable AI opportunities that are simple, realistic, and high in demand, but most people are overlooking them. For the person that's sitting at home thinking about starting a business, they haven't built anything successful before, but they feel like this is their moment. I'm just curious about why even that criteria, simple, realistic, and high in demand, because you're someone that's built several successful companies. And so talk to me about when you're evaluating opportunities, what is your mindset? What is your way of thinking of what I go all in on?
So big markets, the bigger the market, the more money there is to be made. It's really hard to own 10% of a niche. It's much easier to own 1% of a really massive market, and it takes around the same effort to swing for the fences and go for a bigger company than a smaller one. You're putting in literally the same amount of work. The second thing is I look for what's doable. And what I mean by that is I know so many people when they look at AI, they're like, oh yeah, what's the next Chat GPT? What's the next Perplexity? very expensive businesses that are really hard to do, right? And then I look for, do I have an edge? You don't necessarily need an edge, but if it's a big enough market and you know you can get traction and there's enough demand for it, you're typically good to go because the demand means that you can end up selling and generating revenue. The edge is a cherry on the top, but I'll give you some examples. Instead of working on creating the next ChatGPT or Lovable or any of those solutions, I can go and create a company that helps corporations integrate AI and become more efficient. You know how many companies want to embrace AI, but they don't know where to start? Second, I can go out there and I can provide web design services to local businesses, and I can use AI to help me crank out these websites for pennies on the dollar and customize things without having a big staff and really increase my margins. Another one, people post on social media all day long. I can help businesses create content on social media using AI, and I'll just make things more easier, from creating content calendars to ideas and topics to just posting content. These are all things that people will pay for. Maybe they don't have the budget you would like, but because of AI, your margins could be much higher and you can get things done for pennies on the dollar.
I like it because it's so practical and actionable, and we're going to go deeper into it. The thing that you said right in the beginning is actually, I think, incredibly instructive, but also incredibly overlooked, which is you spoke about identifying your unique edge. And it's funny because even in the video that you did, you said step one is pick your niche. And so I'm curious of like, because to your point, I think there's a lot of people that they hear these different kind of trends or like ways that people are making money, and they kind of blindly go and follow it without understanding what's going to work for them. And so can you speak to the significance of actually understanding your unique edge and picking your niche? One of the business opportunities that guests have come on this show and shared with me is building AI agents, not just using them in your business. I'm talking about creating AI agents for big companies. They've literally told me that it's a 7 or 8 figure business opportunity. And so the question in my mind then goes, how do you build AI agents, especially if you're not technical, you're not a software engineer, and you don't have a deep AI background? Well, when it comes to building AI agents, that's where Lindy, the sponsor of today's episode, comes in. They help you build custom AI agents in minutes with no coding experience required. You can literally start from a template, give it a goal like, help me manage my content calendar, or create a research assistant that tracks industry news every week. And Lindy will generate a working agent that connects to tools. It remembers context. It can even complete tasks end to end. And you can turn that agent into a shareable app like a booking system, a lead generator, even a client portal, and then launch it instantly. And so if you want to learn how to actually build and deploy AI agents, not just talk to them, then go to the link in the description. And when you use that link, you will get $20 worth of credits absolutely free. So go to the link in the description to get started with Lindy. Thank you to Lindy for sponsoring this episode. Let's get back to it. There is a business idea that I have heard time and time again when we've interviewed guests on this show. It's to the point where I'm like, should I look into doing this? But anyway, the opportunity is building AI agents that handle repetitive tasks for big companies. Now, one of the things I know is that as soon as you hear AI agents, it sounds really technical and futuristic, like you have to be this AI expert in order to understand it, let alone build one. Well, that's why we partnered with HubSpot to create a free resource for you. So this guide is their AI Agents Playbook for 2025, and it breaks down exactly how to design, deploy, and scale AI agents inside your business with real use cases, frameworks, and even insights from HubSpot's senior leadership team. We also included a companion checklist called How to Use AI Agents in 2025. We covered every angle. circle. It's like having a roadmap that shows you where to start, what to automate first, and even how to track results. So if you want to get access to this free guide, go to the link in the description to download it now. Thank you to HubSpot for sponsoring this episode. Let's get back to the show.
Sure. So when you look at your edge, it's what are you naturally better at? It's like me saying, I want to play baseball when I'm better at basketball. Now, I'm not good enough to make the NBA or even a college basketball team, but there's some things that I'm naturally better at. Most people are better at one thing over another. So when you focus on your strengths, you're much more likely to just do better because you're naturally better at it. So for example, I stick with marketing because I'm naturally better at it. The second thing is with a niche, the money is not in the niches. They're in big, broad markets. But it's too hard to go after a big, broad market from day one, and that becomes expensive. So I'll give you an example of this. If I'm starting a new marketing company, my niche may be local businesses and helping local businesses. From there, after I do well with that, I may expand into franchises. It's a version of local businesses because a lot of franchises are typically local. And then from there, I may expand into global marketing, where we work with local businesses in many different countries. From there, I may add on more services. Instead of just local marketing like SEO and AI SEO, I may end up doing things like paid advertising, social media marketing, right? So as you can see, I'm continually expanding and getting into more and more service items, as well as in more territories and going upstream. And it's a great way to continually expand and get out of that niche. But starting in that niche is a great way because you're not spending too much money. It's an easier way to penetrate, and then you expand into a big market.
Yeah. It's like the mindset is that you start small and you're like continuously growing and expanding that circle. You know what? It's interesting because a couple of months ago, we had Seth Godin on the show, and we went through his 5 steps of marketing. And one of the things he says, or he talks about, is identifying your smallest viable market. And so this is what I hear, Neil, when I speak with people, or even like I can hear the audience at home having this kind of challenge to it. You've built like $100 million successful marketing agency. When it comes to identifying your target market, identifying your smallest viable market, what is your kind of process or the steps that you go through in order to see this is who I should be serving? This is where we should begin.
Think about your edge again, and think about where you can just get traction selling, and start with that. Don't think about identifying it from a perspective of, should I go after law firms or should I go after dentists? Think about where you think you have the best shot of selling based on your edge. And, of course, with whatever service offering you want or product offering, and then just go and tackle that. It could be that you go after lawyers first because you just know lawyers and you went to school with a few lawyers and you can get introductions. It could be that you're going after e-commerce sites first, or whatever the vertical may be, because you know a lot of friends who created D2C sites. You got to figure out where you can get traction from a revenue standpoint faster, and that's typically where you want to start.
I think that's a really good point. Figure out where you can get revenue the fastest and start there.
Yeah, because too many people look at it as like, oh, I'm going to analyze the market and this is how many people in this area and this is the opportunity and I'm going to go penetrate this because this is what's going to make me the most money. And then I'm like, okay, where are you going to start? And then they're like, oh, I don't know, I'm going to have to figure it out. And then you go 2-3 months later, they haven't closed any revenue. They're like, oh, I need to go get a job because I don't have any more money. Well, just go close revenue. Revenue solves a lot of problems. And go after the easiest stuff that you can end up closing first.
Yeah. You know what? You mentioned it earlier on in our conversation, some of the opportunities that you're seeing right now, specifically with building AI businesses. I watched a bunch of your videos. That's really what the last 48 hours has looked like in my life, Neil, is just watching your videos. And so I picked out 3 opportunities that just kind of spoke to me. And I also just thought it would speak to the audience. I wanted to give you the opportunity to just elaborate on it. The first one was the AI Agent Builder Agency. You help companies set up simple AI agents using tools like Crew.ai or Agentforce. And most businesses don't know how to use these tools. So you help them set up and maintain AI agents. Can you kind of start us at the beginning? The context of you even seeing that as an opportunity, and then how can someone capitalize on it?
Everyone talks about AI agents. Go ask most people who are in the corporate world how to set up an AI agent or use them, and they have no clue. And we think at least I think that's a massive opportunity, and I think it will be for a while. I think agents are just going to grow in popularity, and companies are like, how do you market to agents? And I'm like, you're thinking too far. Have you even just used agents yourself? No. Does your organization use them? No. Instead of worrying about marketing to agency or agents, how about set up your own agents to make your own business more efficient? And we see most corporations talking about AI agents, but very few of them ever even use them.
Yeah. I want to make this applicable to someone who's even just hearing this for the first time. Can you explain in layman's terms what is the value of an AI agent to these kind of corporate businesses, these companies? What is the value of an AI agent?
If you're a big organization, even a smaller organization, and you spend hundreds and thousands of dollars or millions of dollars a year on boring, mundane tasks that could be replicated by an AI agent, and the software costs $1,000 a month, so call it 12 grand a year, and then you charge another $1,000 a month to maintain it, you know how happy they are? They're like, cool, we just saved hundreds of thousands of dollars. In a good scenario, millions of dollars. It creates efficiency. Who doesn't like saving money and getting the same result, the output, right? If you're getting the same thing and you're saving money and there's no difference in quality of work, people are very happy.
Yeah. It's interesting. We had a conversation with Dan Martell, and he was talking about automation and essentially being able to your point, take boring, mundane tasks that businesses always do, like admin or customer service, and creating AI agents that fill those gaps. So that's what you're referencing. Um, if you had to estimate it, if someone goes and actions on that, they figure out how to use Crew.ai or Agentforce or whatever the tool is to build AI agents. When we're talking about the size of that business opportunity, what would you put it at? Obviously, this is an estimate, but I'm just curious what you would say.
It's agents are a multi-billion-dollar market, maybe even much larger. I don't know what the market size of agents are. Uh, think of it from the entrepreneur's perspective. Do you want to create a lifestyle business that's generating you a few million, or a really solid business that's generating you more than 8 figures a year? It's such a big market, you can generate a lot of cash. The question is what kind of entrepreneur do you want to be? With all the ideas that I mentioned, it's not hard to make 7, 8+ figures a year. The question is the type of entrepreneur you want to be. A lot of entrepreneurs don't want to put in the effort and the work to do whatever it takes. Some do.
Mhm. You know what, on that point, because I think what you say is so true, is that regardless of what you hear on this conversation, if you don't take the action and have the urgency to go and make it happen, it's all for naught. Like, it doesn't mean anything. And
Yep.
so I just want to make it so easy for people, Neil, of like, if someone hears that idea, that opportunity, and they're like, okay, I want to explore this further, what would you say to them is the next step? Like, immediately after they finish listening to this conversation that you and I are about to have, what is the next thing that they should do if they want to go and build that AI agency?
Use any of the tools out there. You don't have to use Agentforce or the ones I mentioned. You can pick whatever one you want and just go test using agents and building agents. Now, here's the kicker. I want you to first think about what industries you can easily sell to because of your contacts or who you may know, and think about what agents they need. If you don't know that, go talk to them, go figure out where they need help, and then ask and be like, if I built an agent that helped you solve X, Y, and Z problem based on what you're telling me, would you pay for it? Yes. How much would you be willing to pay for it? And you can go build it for them and be like, look, first 30 days are free. If it actually works and provides value, then pay me. All right, cool. Easy sell.
Mm. You know what's interesting? 'Cause I know this from your story, just a side point. That pay per performance model, I don't want people to underestimate that. Because I know even from hearing your story in building your agencies right in the beginning, that's how you were doing it with that kind of, you pay me if we perform. And that's kind of how you got your start. And so I think that it's just a really valuable point for people in getting started. Okay, I wanted to move on to opportunity number 2, which is the AI content agency. And I think it goes right back to what you said in the beginning, which is humans and AI, and this kind of like the working relationship between humans and AI actually being the sweet spot. And so what you said using tools like Jasper or Canva to create content fast, but then humans handle the editing and the storytelling. Can you kind of explain the basis of that idea of the AI content agency? How did you come up with that? And what is the opportunity there?
So sure, don't know how I came up with it. Just being honest, I saw it as a pain point from working in the industry for a long time. But let's backtrack a little bit. If you look at AI content, it tends not to do well on the internet. Fully AI created content with no human intervention. Sometimes you see some websites creating a ton of AI traffic, or content getting a tons of traffic, but it usually doesn't last. Sometimes you see some people creating AI content for social, they get tons of engagement, but again, it usually doesn't last. Majority of the content that does well is human generated or human modified. AI can help you do the research. It can help you with a lot of the starting works, a lot of the mundane, boring tasks when it comes to writing, structuring, outlining, image creation, editing. You may have to do some tweaks, translating, transcribing your content into multiple languages because not everyone speaks English. And there's a lot of tools from the Canvas to the HeyGens. The list goes on and on. The thing that people forget is the content that tends to do well is content that's on new stuff. AI scrapes the web, regurgitates information, and creates output. People want to consume new stuff that they haven't seen before. I'm not saying all the old stuff has been seen before, but a lot of it has. And what you want to do is tie in what Google calls EEAT, experience, expertise, authority, and trust. If you can integrate those elements to within your content and talk about new stuff people haven't heard of or seen before or watched before, you're much more likely to do better. So you have AI do a lot of the work that you can, whether you're using Jasper or whatever tools out there, to help you with some of the content. And you add in the human element to make it unique, better, storytelling, share your experiences, sprinkle that special sauce that makes you better than the competition. When you do that, you're much more likely to have your content perform well, and people will pay for that. They're all creating content for the social web and even Google and ChatGPT. They would love more of it at a cheaper price. AI can help.
Yeah. You know, it's interesting because I think exactly to your point, and I'm seeing this as a business owner, I'm sure that you're seeing the same thing, which is people will send you their resume or the response to a task, or they'll want to manage your LinkedIn and they'll send you example posts, or like even blog posts, I'm sure in what you do. And you can tell it's all AI generated and it's complete, to your point, slop. And so I want to move on to opportunity 3 before we get out of here. And this was something when I was watching some of your recent videos, I just thought it was really exciting. And it was a take and something that I hadn't really heard being discussed, which is you were speaking about the opportunity that exists right now with AI search and what you call, I know SEO is like the thing that we've heard about for years on Google, search engine optimization. You talk about GEO. Can you explain what that is? And then to the human being that's watching at home, where is the business opportunity with that?
So GEO stands for Generative Engine Optimization. Some people call it GEO, AEO, Answer Engine Optimization, AI, SEO, self-explanatory there. And they probably use a ton of other variations. All right. Think of this as something really simple. You search on ChatGPT. Whether you have a problem or whatever you're searching for, sometimes it recommends a product or a service. If you like what you see, you click over or you go to the site and you buy. So we're not seeing these platforms drive a ton of traffic. We are seeing them drive tons of revenue. Because unlike traditional Google where you click on 10 blue links, you do your research on platform, even Google's adapted to that, and then you go to the website when you're ready to buy. And companies aren't optimizing to be recommended by ChatGPT or Perplexity or Google AI Overviews or Google AI Mode. And these are all opportunities because it's the future of what people are using, but yet companies don't think, hey, I should get them to recommend my product or service over my brand. And that's a huge opportunity. Even with us, we have this software product called UberSuggest. So UberSuggest is an SEO tool. If you go to ubersuggest.com, you can check this out for free. We have an AI visibility report. It shows you how your brand ranks compared to your competition for certain prompts or queries that people type in. You can use this if you want to be a service provider. You can use quite a bit of it for free. The reason I say that is I want you to think about how can you ensure that people see you over or your brand or your clients over the competition. So there's a few factors they look for. Brand mentions. How many times is someone mentioning your brand over the competition? When there's articles around the web. What's the sentiment? Are they saying more positive things about you than the competition? Are there structured data formats like comparison tables that break down all the features or the benefits you have versus the competitors and how you're better? So things like that help get you or your competition, you or your clients mentioned more than others.
Mhm. I mentioned this earlier, which is the value. It's impossible to put a number to it. The value of you mastering and developing this expertise in SEO and Google, like what that's meant for your career. With GEO and how it's adapting with AI, and that's actually really like the new opportunity. Would you estimate that change of like understanding and being able to help companies make sure that when ChatGPT or Perplexity is giving that overview on a product or that recommendation, one of the products they mention is your brand? What would you say the size of that opportunity of mastering that expertise of GEO? What would you say it's even greater than what you experienced with SEO?
I don't know if it's greater. They're both very large. You can generate 9 figures a year doing this. It's not easy to generate 9 figures a year doing this. I don't think it's hard to generate $1 million doing this. So where people land will be somewhere in between if they're good at this and they're good at sales. But if they suck at sales and they suck at actually performing the work, you're not going to make any money. You're just going to lose money. But the opportunity is massive. Think about it this way. Just on Google alone, there's 5 trillion searches that happen on an annual basis. ChatGPT, I think, is somewhere around 1 billion a day, and it's growing at a really rapid pace. Perspective, to break it down on a daily basis, I think Google's around 13.7-ish billion searches a day. They're all massive opportunities.
Yeah. You know what? Before we get out of here, and I've asked this with the other opportunities, this AI search, you were the first person that I heard really speak about it with the loudness and like the regularity that you did. If someone after listening to this video wants to go deeper and actually start to develop an expertise and a proficiency in helping either their own brand rank in AI search or other brands, what are the next steps? Where are the next places that they should look or steps that they should take in order to develop an expertise in this?
So I would start with just research. There's a lot of blog articles like on my side and videos that I have on my YouTube channel, and other people have like Search Engine Land and Search Engine Journal. The list goes on and on. But we have a free tool that you can test. There's premium versions, but I would start with the free stuff. You can just put in your brand into Ubersuggest AI Visibility Report or a person's brand that you're trying to pitch, and you can start seeing who's ranking, why, sentiment, all this kind of stuff, which will give you ideas of what you need to fix and improve. The best way to get good at it is by just practicing it and trying to look and do your research and play around with it, and you'll quickly learn what you need to end up doing. The best way that some of the best marketers that I've seen aren't the people reading. They're the ones that are just playing with the tools, fidgeting, and actually trying things out and experimenting and seeing what happens with their experiments. Some things work, some things don't. You quickly learn how to get good at it because you do more of the stuff that works, you do less of the stuff that doesn't.
Yeah. You know what, Neil, thank you so much for joining us in this conversation. Before we get out of here, I just had one final question. And I want to start right in the beginning, which is we spoke about your quote with the AI gold rush is here. And then you spoke about the threat to Google and smartphones and even like teams and jobs. If we went 10 years into the future, just play this little experiment with me for a second. I'm curious to you, what do you think is either the biggest change or the most exciting thing that has happened as a result of this kind of AI gold rush that we're going into?
It's going to be integrated in every aspect of your life, from your cars to your fridges to, your ovens to just walking around to your glasses, which will give consumers more access to data wherever they are, which gives people more opportunities to monetize and learn and improve.
Neil Patel, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, so if you enjoyed this episode, you're going to absolutely love what we did with this one right here. Click here.